Let's just, I don't know what we're doing. Know what we are doing.
Mic on.
All right. Mic on. The Pope. Otsu.
Konnichiwa, Gateway.
Hello.
I am placing blocks and shit cause I'm in fucking Minecraft. Was playing Mario Kart 8 recently.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's in the audience?
Oh, who was that?
I have no idea. Okay, why are the GPU? Are the GPU fans gonna start? Oh, there we go. Yeah, decided. Here we go again. Decided to give it another shot because I just. Today, lost motivation. Lost motivation. Earlier. Lost motivation to do it earlier.
Chicken jockey!
Hold on. Whoa! The East. I have no idea what Mira is doing. Remember when I slipped up and I accidentally called her Mita? You and Dixie were talking in Latin on my server. That was
Oh my
actually.
god.
Wait. Wait, you can place these and. Wait, they can be waterlogged? Did not know that. Did not know that. Can the hanging version be waterlogged? Yes, it can. They should add in lava logging blocks. I am Steve. Hold on. My name is Brian. I was a hero. But I'm...
And I'm up to Sleeping Beauty reacted.
This is...
Here.
I am Steve. I
Yo, Jimmy.
am Steve. I feel like I'm about to sneeze, chat.
Yeah.
I just sneezed. Who's...
Bruh.
Can you let him
You're
in?
looking. Alright, I'll let him in.
I already did.
If you...
Arrow
Hey.
Jeremy 2009.
Yo, yo, that's the year is my birth year.
It's always so pretty seeing the reflections.
Let's get.
Chicken jockey. I am placing blocks and shit 'cause I'm in. The missile knows where it is at all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't.
Oh, the enemy banana.
Ender Pearl. Oh, I just remember why I was holding these items. I am Steve. This is a crafting table. I got myself a sweet blade. Flint and steel. Ender Pearl. Ender Pearl. Ender Pearl. Ender Pearl. Ender Pearl. This Yandere ASMR video will give you nightmare. Okay, let me. This Yandere
It's risky.
This Yandere ASMR video will give you nightmares. Let's see. Let's see. What? What? What?
my gosh! Oh my god! Got your ass again!
Ender pearl, flinted steel, the nether. I don't know. I'm just repeating stuff. I just like the one part where he said, "I am Steve." Peach, you're so cool. And with my star, we're gonna roll. Peach, understand, I'm gonna love you till the very end. Peaches, 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 peaches. I love you. Whoa. It looks really beautiful with the shaders. I think Otsu has gone insane. Are you okay, Otsu?
Yeah.
What's so funny?
Just got your ass. You just got your ass again. Oh shit.
I'm sorry, you got Jurassic what now?
You got your ass again. I can't believe I just trolled you, Johnson Moy.
Yeah, flinted steel. I'm on hiatus for the
shit.
Yandere stuff until April. I declare myself Simpus Emeritus.
When? April something.
Oh, I got something. I got something. I'm just gonna wait for people to come in. So I'm gonna go ahead and... No, I'm still just chatting. P. Pope. No. P. Oh, I didn't install voice text. You know what? Screw it. We're doing it on stream. I don't have voice text installed on this computer. You know what? Let's sneak into a few VTubers streams because I can do this.
No.
All right.
I'm artistic.
You know what? Let's just not say anything and just redeem some stuff on this is troll. Poke the dyke. She needs to be
Thank
poked.
you very much for the gifted subby. I think that's a doggy. You're right, I'm bad at everything.
She gets poked.
Oh, Chert, not Chet. What I said, Chet, right? Chert. Okay. All right. Well, let's go the interloper. Let's go the interloper fishing. Okay.
What are we gonna do with dog coins? Dog coins.
I'm learning so much. Oh,
I
there
just-
it is.
I had
Interloper.
Pat
I'm coming for you.
with dog
I know,
coins.
futuristic Bluetooth is
Patty with
insane.
dog coins.
I would never want to be hooked up to this though. Like, I wouldn't want the responsibility of being in a time loop. You know what I mean? I would like to be
Dog
a
coins.
person who has
I
no
just
idea
called
what's
them
happening.
dog coins.
I think over that, Patsky. Wait, thank you. Here comes the sun. Do 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 do. Am I gonna run into it? Oh, it's gonna.
All right, let's react to the Palm Marian Catholic. I'm sorry about this, guys, but this is... Can you excuse me? We're gonna go on a brief intermission right now, so please stand by.
Mic on.
All right, I am back. Hold on, let me put on my cape. Let me put on my cape. Here we go. Otsu, can you moderate? Can you help me with the moderation?
Alright, who should I moderate?
And this is... Alright, so this has been brought to my attention, and it is truly bizarre. The Palmarian Church. They're like basically Catholic wannabes. They have their own pope. I'm not even kidding.
Your own pope?
And you want to know who the real pope is?
Who is it?
This guy. He is a legitimate pope. You may not like everything that this guy says, but he is the true pope. That guy is an imposter.
Who's the real pope?
Francis. This guy is Pope Peter
Oh,
the
the guy who
Third.
says no.
The guy who says no. You got it. He says no.
It's the end. So void section.
So we're gonna be reacting. Discovering the... What is a Palmarian
You've
church?
probably seen photos of this guy online. He is supposed to be the head of the Palmarian Church, allegedly the real pope of the real one true Catholic Church. Stay tuned where I'm going to cover this group in detail today at 11 a.m. Central right here on the channel. Got a link to that video in the show notes. I'm going to cover
Ooh,
their
he's also
history
Central.
and their theology, and you're gonna see some insane things about this group, so stay tuned for more. You've probably seen photos of this guy online. He is supposed
Holy and Catholic tradition still perpetuated by the Palmarian Church. Look at this. Visit our website at palmarianchurch.org. If we look at it, I'm gonna find the creed. It's somewhere around here. Okay, why is my scrolling is a little wonky? You see, I can scroll on this page just fine. I can scroll on this page just fine. I can scroll on YouTube just fine. Yeah, I could scroll just fine, but this one is very stiff, so... This guy says he's Pope. He's not a real Pope. Well, that's the papal crown or the papal tiara. I just like to call it the papal crown because tiara sounds too feminine. And all the popes are men! I had to say it like that because the nuns of our holy order are the chapel of the Holy Will. Palmarian Library. What's a...
Ave Maria. My name is Father Braulio Maria. I am a missionary bishop of the Holy Palmarian Catholic Church, and so I am starting off a YouTube channel with the intention of teaching all I can about the Holy Palmarian Church. The Holy Palmarian Church is the true Church of Jesus Christ. The church was in Rome apostate.
Nah, blah, blah, nah, you were never apostatized. Little bro, you were... I am truly appalled by this.
On November 20th, 2015, police knocked on the door of a house in Wexford Town, Ireland. Not surprisingly, nobody answered. The person who lived at the Faith, number 29, was known to be a recluse, but this time the situation was different, and neighbors were concerned. Authorities entered the house and found the body of 84-year-old Bridget Crosby in her bedroom. She had been dead for about 2 months without anyone knowing. But it wasn't a case of foul play or neglect. It was something much stranger. Bridget was part of a cult called the Palmarian Church. Based in Spain and claiming membership all over the world, the Palmarians are a secretive group that broke off from the Catholic Church in the 1970s. Bridget rarely left home, only traveling to Dublin occasionally to attend services at the cult's chapel and hand out Palmarian literature in the city. When she was seen on the streets of Wexford, she always wore long, dark dresses and veils. When neighbors tried to speak with her, she wouldn't respond. She cut off contact with her family, who desperately tried to reach out to her over the years. It was in this isolation that she died. 2 Wexford residents, who also have the most Irish names of all time, were interviewed about Bridget by the Irish Independent newspaper. A neighbor named Sean O'Leary witnessed her fall down on the sidewalk. Unable to get up, Bridget simply ignored anyone who tried to help her. O'Leary recalled that she refused to go in the ambulance. That was July, and the last time I set eyes on her. Local undertaker Paddy Mulligan, who prepared Bridget's body for burial, stated that, "We'd always keep an eye out for her, but sure, she couldn't interact with us because of the religion. If you did happen to catch her eye, she'd smile. It's very sad." But what did Bridget Crosby believe? What was this cult that she lived for, and possibly died for? It was the late 1960s in Francisco Franco's Spain. While political turmoil filled headlines in Europe and America, not much was going on in the dusty town of Palmar de Troya, a small community in the hills south of Seville. Just the day-to-day of life in rural Andalusia. On March 30th, 1968, 4 young girls went to pick flowers in a field outside town. They saw a woman standing near a mastic tree, who smiled at them but said nothing and disappeared. The girls believed they had seen the Virgin Mary. Word soon spread about the supposed apparition. That spring, hundreds of people began visiting the field to pray at the tree. Soon more people were claiming visions. So many pilgrims came to the spot that the owner of the field was unable to farm his own land. Even the tree fell victim to the crowds. It was cut apart for souvenirs. Despite all the spectacle, the 4 original seers never sought media attention and were ultimately forgotten by the public. 2 regular faces at the site were 23-year-old Clemente Dominguez y Gomez and his friend, 35-year-old Manuel Alonso Corral, nicknamed Manolo. They first visited in October 1968, drawn to the supernatural happenings at Palmar. In fact, they spent so much time at the field that they were fired from their office jobs in Seville. On August 15th, 1969, something strange happened at Palmar, something stranger than the events that were already going on. Clemente fell into a mystical ecstasy near the tree. From September 1969 onward, Clemente claimed to receive visions of Jesus Christ along with the Virgin Mary and other Catholic saints. Clemente always had a charismatic personality, and his supposed ecstasies and visions were bringing him a lot of attention. Soon, a group of faithful formed around him. Manolo didn't claim any visions himself, but dutifully wrote down all of Clemente's supernatural messages, typed them up, and handed them out to followers.
Okay, this is... I don't really have a lot to say about it. I know I'm really quiet. It's just...
Visions said that the end times had come, and a violent apocalypse would arrive soon. The only way to avoid the coming evil was to listen to the messages and repent. Clemente condemned the Catholic Church for becoming too modern after the Second Vatican Council.
Yeah, like the Second Vatican Council introduced the Novus Ordo, which is the... I wasn't around before the pre-Novus Ordo.
Specifically, the change from celebrating Mass in Latin to vernacular languages.
Vernacular languages, yeah, that's concelebration.
Specifically, the change from...
Yeah, that's what they used to do back then. They would grab the back of his chasuble.
Celebrating Mass in Latin to vernacular...
That's concelebration right there. Like, that's...
Celebration?
Concelebration.
Concelebration, oh.
When there's multiple priests officiating. I've seen this twice this year. I can't disclose them. Both instances had 3 priests.
languages. He attacked the Catholic bishops and clergy, saying they had been taken over by Freemasons and communists. Clemente
That is very extreme. Like, for the time, like, just saying that, like, you have people like Fulton Sheen who, like, outright condemned communism, and he was never excommunicated for that. That is such a bold claim to make, that the Catholic Church was being taken over by communists. That is such a bold claim.
also claimed to have the stigmata, bleeding marks on his body, replicating the wounds of Jesus Christ. It was clear that he was trying to push his way to the center of attention at Palmar, and his following was growing. But what was the Catholic Church doing this whole time? For the past 2 years, Catholic leadership hadn't approved the miraculous claims at Palmar, but didn't condemn them either, instead waiting to gather evidence before making a judgment. Finally, in May 1970, Cardinal José María Bueno y Montreal, the Archbishop of Seville, formally denounced the apparitions as false, stating that the goings-on at Palmar were collective and superstitious hysteria. He forbade his priests from visiting the site and told Catholics not to join external exhibitions that are not approved by the Church. Clemente and his followers were upset at this ruling. Conveniently, Clemente had another vision shortly
He looks crazy right there.
after, where the Virgin Mary told him that Archbishop Montreal was a communist, a Freemason, and the faithful shouldn't listen to him. In July 1970, Clemente and Manolo traveled to Rome, trying to get Pope Paul VI to approve their movement. Clemente threw himself at the Pope's feet, publicly begging on his knees for recognition. This request was ignored.
And the Pope was like, no. No. They call Pope Francis the Pope of the Americas.
Since the Archbishop had already ruled on the matter. Money was needed for the next phase of the mission. A lot of money. In 1972, Clemente and Manolo convinced a wealthy Spanish noblewoman, the Baroness de Castillo Chiril, to help them. The 90-year-old Baroness donated 16 million pesetas to the cause.
Pesetas?
However, she would later
What's a
call the movement
peseta?
a fraud, saying the pair were only
A peseta.
Said that? No, I don't fucking know about that.
out for her money. With this newfound income, Clemente and Manolo traveled through Western Europe and the Americas, spreading the message of Palmar and gathering new followers. Their group went by different names, including the Marian Apostles, the Apostles of the Last Times, and the Apostles of the Cross. In addition to the usual apocalyptic predictions, Clemente claimed that Pope Paul VI was being kept as a prisoner in the Vatican by Freemasons and pumped with drugs.
What? I'm gonna like move myself real quick and look what happened. That editing
Kept
trick.
as a prisoner in the Vatican by Freemasons and pumped with drugs.
It's like that syringe.
But through a miracle, he would relocate to Palmar and rule the Catholic Church from Spain. The Baroness's donation also allowed Clemente and Manolo to buy the field outside Palmar in 1974. The pair could now build a larger shrine to the Virgin Mary and also dictate the spiritual programming at the site.
Good evening. I'm Chevy Chase, and you're not. Our top story tonight, Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead.
On November 20th, 1975,
I don't know who that is.
Francisco Franco died. The nationalist dictator of Spain was gone. The country now entered an uncertain political phase, transitioning from a one-party right-wing state
Francisco
to
Franco?
constitutional
Dead in
monarchy,
the
democratic
75?
elections. Clemente and Manolo had ardently supported Franco, and even tried to meet with the Generalissimo to beg for his support. These attempts failed. Just 10 days after Franco's death, Clemente claimed that Jesus Christ appeared to him, telling him to found a new religious order. Religious orders are groups within the Catholic Church that dedicate themselves to prayer and service to the poor. The most famous were founded in the Middle Ages, including the Benedictines, Franciscans, and Dominicans. In December 1975, Clemente founded the Carmelites of the Holy Face in company with Jesus and Mary, with himself as the superior. This new order was to be bigger, better, and replace all others. There was only one problem. Clemente wasn't actually a Catholic priest, nor was Manolo. This technical issue would have to be fixed, and the pair had to find another friend, specifically a Catholic bishop who could ordain them as priests. Pierre Martin Ngo Dien Thuc was the Archbishop of Hue, Vietnam. He came from an elite Vietnamese Catholic family, and his brother was Ngo Dien Diem, president of South Vietnam. But after Dien Diem's assassination, in November 1963 at the hands of a military coup. Archbishop Thuk was stranded in Europe and unable to return to his home country. Thuk had been in Rome for the Second Vatican Council and was openly critical of the changes and modernizations in the Roman Church. With his homeland torn apart by the Vietnam War and his influence in the Catholic Church waning, Thuk spent the 1960s and 70s in exile in Italy. Thuk came to know about Palmar through a dissident priest from Switzerland, though there is debate over how much Thuk believed the miraculous claims. Regardless, Thuk arrived in Spain in time for Christmas 1975, and on New Year's Day 1976, he ordained Clemente, Manolo, and 2 other men to the priesthood. 10 days later, Clemente, Manolo, and 3 others were ordained as bishops. None of this was allowed under the laws of the Catholic Church, so Thuk, Clemente, Manolo, and everyone else who had been ordained without permission
They were
excommunicated
excommunicated.
from the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Declare him excommunicate and anathema.
Thuk would later renounce his actions and reconcile with Rome, but Clemente and Manolo had gotten what they wanted, and could now make more priests and bishops for their movement. 1976 would be significant in other ways. That May, while returning from a failed mission in France, the car carrying Clemente and 4 of his bishops crashed in the Basque region of Spain. The windshield shattered, and shards of glass impaled Clemente's face. To save his life, doctors had to remove his eyeballs. After recovering that summer, Clemente, now calling himself the Blind Seer, claimed the Virgin Mary told him he would be the next pope. After the death of the currently reigning Paul VI, his sight would be restored and he would rule the true church at the end of the world. 2 years later, on August 6, 1978, Pope Paul VI died. The face of the Catholic Church since 1963 was gone. Cardinals would gather in Rome to elect a new pope, who would ultimately take the name John Paul I. Clemente and the
John Paul
Palmarian
I
elite
only
wing-
had like a short reign. He was like for like a few days, and then later on came John Paul II, and we all know about John
Bogota,
Paul II.
Colombia, when the news broke. Conveniently, the same day, Clemente claimed that Jesus Christ appeared to him and mystically crowned him pope in a vision. 2 days later, he was back in Palmar, now calling himself Pope Gregory XVII. To the Palmarians, Rome had lost the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist, but the blind seer would save them from the apocalypse that was just around the corner. Clemente would reign as Palmarian Pope for 27 years. Charismatic and personable on the outside, he kept an iron fist clenched within his velvet glove. He held absolute power over his followers, declaring that all outside the Palmarian Church were damned. Clemente's tastes were rich and his aesthetics decadent. He would order the construction of a giant Palmarian basilica, which would rise slowly over the fields of Andalusia for 3 decades. Massive floats and statues were built for elaborate processions around the Palmarian compound. Vestments were made of the finest materials and altars covered in gold. Despite all the art and ceremony, the actual beliefs of the Palmarian Church were shifting away from traditional Catholicism. These changes came from Clemente's reported visions. The Palmarians created their own versions of the Catholic Mass, sacraments, and rosary, all differing from the traditional practices. Clemente would call himself Sweet Christ on Earth.
Whoa! Dude has such an ego. Dude has such an ego.
Declaring that he would rule as emperor over a
Oh, no. He did not just say that.
future Hispanic Palmarian empire. In 1997, Clemente announced a new version of the Bible called the Palmarian Sacred History, claiming that all previous Bibles were corrupt. This work differs significantly from the Christian Bible and includes an interstellar war between the aliens from the planet of Mary and aliens from the planet of Lucifer. When this text was completed in 2001,
What? Why? I'm sorry, I can't take that seriously. I'm sorry, I just can't take it seriously.
Bible, and includes an interstellar war between the aliens from the planet of Mary and aliens from the planet of Lucifer. When this text was completed in 2001, Palmarians were ordered to burn all other copies of the Bible. The Palmarian Church would declare thousands of historical figures as saints, including Charlemagne, Mary Queen of Scots, and Christopher Columbus.
What? You're making this up. You're making this up.
Figures as saints,
What's wrong?
including Charlemagne, Mary Queen of Scots, and Christopher Columbus. Clemente also canonized Francisco Franco as a saint, erecting an altar to the Spanish dictator in the Palmarian cathedral.
No.
Clemente's personal behavior ranged from the riotous to the bizarre, as attested to by former Palmarians. He was known to drink heavily, sometimes up to 20 martinis while out on benders in Seville. Clemente Manolo and the inner circle of Palmarian bishops would spend exorbitant amounts on food, alcohol, and luxury hotels, while demanding more donations from their followers. Clemente rarely led services at the Basilica, only appearing on important days like Christmas and Easter. At these ceremonies, which lasted several hours, Clemente would often arrive in the opening procession, then leave out the back and return for the end of the service. On some occasions, he would stumble in drunk, even assaulting the bishops who tried to help him. Clergy who criticized Clemente's behavior were punished with menial work at the compound or excommunicated. In 1982, Clemente and his entourage visited the Carmelite church at Alba de Tormes, famous for the tomb of Saint Teresa of Avila. Rumors were circulating that the Palmarians were trying to steal the body of the saint, and tensions were high. The day of the visit, Clemente and his comrades got drunk and began staggering up and down the church. Climbing into the pulpit, Clemente declared that he was the true pope, and that women who wore pants were whores. Coming out of the church, the Palmarians were attacked by a mob who threw garbage at them. Several Palmarians were beaten up, and one of their cars was pushed in a river. Local police were called to protect
What?
the Palmarians and prevent a riot. Though he preached a strict sexual morality, Clemente was actively homosexual before and during his reign as Palmarian Pope. According to Robert McCormick, a former Irish Palmarian bishop, Clemente was well known around the gay bar scene in Seville, earning the nickname El Voltio, meaning the volt, as in electrical voltage. The word is also associated with the verb voltear, which means to turn around, a reference to Clemente's promiscuous behavior in public toilets. His sidekick Manolo was named El Monje, the monk. McCormick and others testified that Clemente and Manolo took male lovers from within the Palmarian clergy. Despite all of Clemente's behavior in public and private, thousands of Palmarians continued to follow their blind pope. The total number of members at any given time is difficult to tell, though it was more than 2,000 worldwide during Clemente's reign. But what was life like for the average member of the Palmarian Church? The experience of the everyday Palmarian varied, and still varies depending on location. Members living close to Palmar would be bused to the compound for long services and processions, while those living in Europe and America might have a cult chapel to attend. Countries like Ireland and Germany had more Palmarians, while populations in the Americas were smaller and more isolated. For all Palmarian laypeople, complete loyalty and generous donations were required for salvation. Married couples were ordered to have as many children as possible to keep the cult growing.
Why do they have so many children?
Because every time they have sexual intercourse, they have to have a baby.
Beginning in the late
Yes, that is true.
1970s, the Palmarian Church began to impose specific regulations on followers, known as the norms. Clemente and future Palmarian popes would declare that the norms were necessary for salvation, while former members would criticize the norms as a means of control. The norms called for Palmarians to wear conservative clothing at all times. Palmarians were forbidden from visiting places deemed to be impure, including beaches, swimming pools, nightclubs, discos, and sporting events. Contact with outsiders was to be limited to essential interactions at work, and children were not allowed to speak with non-Palmarian classmates at school. Palmarians were also not allowed to interact with family members outside the cult. Catherine Rhodes, who was raised as a Palmarian in the United States, recounts that the list of things we couldn't do, see, hear, and watch was long. We couldn't let our wrist, knees, or the indent on our next show. We couldn't listen to music or read books not approved by the church. We couldn't speak to anyone who left the church. We couldn't date anyone who was not a member of the church, and friendships with outsiders were discouraged. The page of rules kept in Mom's little wooden desk held sacred words etched by His Holiness, our self-elected.
This is like the North Korea of Christianity. That's what I'm thinking. This is like the North Korea.
What's the North Korean Christianity?
The Palmarian Church.
To question any of his
Palmarian
infallible
Church.
words
Oh,
was grounds
shit.
for excommunication. Catherine Rhodes would
Not-
ultimately leave the
never
cult
gonna go
in
there.
2005. Grounds for excommunication. Catherine Rhodes would ultimately leave the cult in 2005, and her Palmarian family still doesn't speak with her. Life for the lesser Palmarian clergy was also difficult. Accounts from former nuns and priests include extreme fasting, heat exhaustion, and illnesses going untreated. Sleep deprivation was almost universal, with clergy collapsing during services and even being killed in auto accidents due to drivers falling asleep at the wheel. Verbal, physical, and psychological harm was rampant, while sexual abuse of adult men and women within the cult has also been reported. One extreme case occurred in 1982, when a young Cuban who was preparing for the Palmarian priesthood was rushed to the hospital. Doctors discovered that he had castrated
I don't think you're gonna
partially
want to
blinded
see
himself
this. I'm gonna be honest.
with a knife. He said this was to suppress all sexual temptation, while at the same time imitating the blind seer. For all his efforts, he was rejected by Clemente and excommunicated from the Palmarian Church. Except for the occasional
You're not gonna want to see this.
I don't even know what this is about. What is it?
We're talking about. I'm doing a reaction stream. That's
tabloid
all.
article or local gossip about
like,
Clemente's party life.
Names and stuff?
No, it's just the Palmarian Church. It is truly bizarre.
Hey, Alec.
Pope or Gateway, everything in every church is bizarre. It's not just that church, it's every single church. It doesn't matter which one you're a part of. I'm not saying it to be rude or anything. I'm not just saying that's my observances.
World beyond Andalusia took little notice of the Palmarians.
No
that was until
disrespect.
1986, when a Spanish comedy called Manuel y Clemente was released. The film depicts the title characters as homosexual lovers who come up with a religious scam to milk money and attention from the people of Palmar de Troya.
I never even heard of Manuel and Clemente.
What?
I never heard of that
more
before.
Profitable than they could possibly imagine. But dissatisfied followers and unbelieving outsiders didn't bother Clemente. The Palmarian Pope was riding high, literally, on his throne. Money
Like I
flowed
said, I
into
never heard
Palmar
of
by
these
day,
before.
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
and liquor flowed in the bars of Seville by night. The faithful were kept busy praying and waiting for
Do they do like
Armageddon,
rituals or
while
stuff like
Clemente
that?
Pretty weird. It's
his inner
the
circle
cult of the
enjoyed a
blind
life
pope.
of wild excess. Maybe the world was coming
There's
to
a
an
lot
end.
of cults, but I
party
won't go into detail about those. It's not related to my own. To the guys' knowledge.
Right before Easter 2005, Clemente
I see those
Dominguez
eyes, like,
Gomez
forcibly
died of
closed?
a brain hemorrhage
Yeah.
at the age of 59. The founder of the Palmarian
Wait.
cult was gone.
What are
The
the-
prophecy that he
I
would
won't
rise
ask.
after 3 days never came to fruition. He was buried in the crypt of his basilica and canonized
gosh.
2 days after his death. Manuel Alonso Corral would succeed his friend as
I can't even hear the
Palmarian
audio. It's probably
taking
going to be
the name
copyrighted.
Peter
I don't
II.
want to say that, though.
Manolo's 6-year papacy would be very different from that of the charismatic Clemente. He rarely
is that
preached
one of the
sermons
popes?
and
Peter
never
II?
claimed to have visions, instead publishing letters to his
Okay.
followers, similar to his role as Clemente's secretary in the 1970s.
All I know
These letters
is that the
repeatedly told
bishop
of an
is the
imminent
chess
apocalypse.
piece.
I literally asked the bishop if it's true that he could only move diagonally. He looked at me like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a reference to chess." And he's like, "No, that's in chess."
And the fiery violence.
That's in
to come.
chess,
Manolo
not
would also
in
declare that the
religion.
Antichrist had been born in the year 2000, having been conceived in a satanic ceremony involving an ex-Palmarian bishop and a Jewish teenager.
that? Oh, what?
The norms
What
also
is
became
that?
stricter
Oh.
in the
I'm trying to
Palmarian
listen
year
here.
2000.
Sorry.
Having been conceived
Oh
in a
my
satanic
God.
ceremony involving an ex-Palmarian bishop and a Jewish teenager. The norms also became stricter.
Okay, I'll be quiet
The
then.
faithful were commanded to destroy all TVs, computers, and cell phones. The internet was originally permitted on a limited basis, but then completely banned.
Oh, no.
Manolo also banned jeans, rock music, Christmas trees, Santa Claus, and candles on birthday cakes. Still, the new Palmarian Pope kept up the rich living of his predecessor, enjoying fine restaurants and hotels in Seville, as well as gold-plated taps in the papal bathroom. Manolo's papacy saw the beginning of a major
is that a
decline.
video?
That
in
is a
Palmarian
far
church.
cry from Francis. Say what you want about him. Francis is pretty humble.
No, I was gonna say, was it a Van Halen concert I just saw?
Yeah.
Older members were dying, and very few new ones were coming in. Priests, nuns, and faithful were leaving due to the harsh norms and failed prophecies. The cult didn't seem to be actively trying to win converts, since they didn't spread their message through mass media or publicly advertise at all. Manolo died in July
Yeah, I could never.
2011 at the age of 76. and would be followed by his hand-picked successor, Gines Jesus Hernandez. As Palmarian Pope, Gines would take the name Gregory XVIII. Within the group, he was known as the Electrician, as he had been a handyman around Palmar. Robert McCormick and other ex-members.
Yeah, like he wasn't a fiat. Like he just.
No, I just didn't know how old he was.
He's like 88.
Oh, he's 88 years old. Wow, he's still going.
Yeah.
Gines as being.
He's still going.
You want to know my favorite quote from Pope Francis?
Yeah, what is it?
It's. No. This is my favorite quote from Pope Francis.
No.
Okay.
Predictable and temperamental, both before and during his papacy. Presenting himself as the great caudillo, Gines's style was direct and militaristic. The Antichrist was coming.
I guess
and
I
the
can't hear it.
Palmarians had to be
Oh
ready
wait,
to
no, I
die
gotta feel the
for their
chat.
pope. Despite the growing number of defections, the norms would continue to grow, both in number and strictness. Palmarians were now forbidden from speaking with anyone not dressed according to the norms, or
What
even
building
viewing
is that
media
again?
with
Is that
people
the
not dressed
church that they do stuff at?
Yeah.
properly. Gines would also forbid
church.
Palmarians
Yeah, I
from
know.
playing with garden hoses, inflatable swimming pools, or water balloons.
It's the
under
Chuck
pain
E.
of
Churches.
excommunication. Excommunication did not have to be permanent, and a fallen member could be reconciled
Oh my gosh.
if they wrote down their offense and submitted it to Palmarian leaders. This information was not secret or protected.
God, there was one meme I saw. This is unrelated to the thing we're doing,
In
but
2011,
it was like
Gines
Chuck E.
publicly
Cheese.
Yeah.
Freaking
stated that
on, like he looked like he was stoned, and the thing said "Chuck E. Chuchlas"
there were
or
less
something
than
like that. It
2,000
was so funny. I couldn't stop
Palmarians
laughing at that one.
Yet Gines publicly
I
stated
can't find it anymore.
that
I
there were
don't know
less
where
than
it went.
2,000
I'm trying to listen.
Man.
Palmarian
Okay.
If you keep this up, I may have to remove you or.
worldwide. Yet money continued to flow into the cult's coffers
I'll
during
shut
his
up
papacy.
then.
Under Gines, all
I'll shush.
Palmarians were required to donate at least 10% of their income, under pain of sin.
That's not even what God wants. Dude,
Will-
that's not even what God wants. That's what 10% of your income. That's not God doesn't even want 10% of your income. That's like I remember that quote from Father Chad Ripperger saying that
Had to be rewritten to cut out non-Palmarian family members. Elderly followers were now required to sell their houses and move to Palmar or to a
I'm going to have to I'm removing you.
Sorry about that. Okay, you can remove me if you want.
Sure.
Palmarian nursing home in Germany. The real estate would go to the cult. It's at this point that Bridget Crosby, the elderly Irish woman, re-enters the story. Per the new rules from Gines, she had to sell her house in Wexford and live in Palmar. Bridget refused to leave the place she had called home for decades, and for this she was excommunicated. She would die, cut off from the Palmarian church, while remaining unwilling or unable to speak to anyone in the outside world. After her death in November 2015, one of her sisters spoke to the Irish Independent, saying, "We don't know why Bridget got involved with the Palmarians, but we do know they took her away from us. She lived in isolation. We wanted to speak to her. She probably wanted to speak to us, but because of the extreme rules, she felt she couldn't. It was utterly heartbreaking." But this isn't the end of the story. 5 months after Bridget Crosby's death, Palmar would be rocked by a defection nobody expected. In April 2016, Pope Gregory XVIII quit. After 32 years as a Palmarian and almost 4 years as their pope, he was out. He resigned the papacy, renounced Palmarianism, and spilled his guts to the media. Now appearing in everyday clothes with his girlfriend Nieves, also a former Palmarian, Gines admitted that Palmar was a scam from the start. Speaking to the Spanish newspaper El País, the former Palmarian pope stated that it's all a setup, particularly a financial one. They're just using the miracle of the Virgin Mary as a front.
Yeah, it is.
In the same interview, Gines mentioned embarrassing documents he had in his possession, threatening to reveal them in case the Palmarians tried to sue. He also denied stealing 2 million euros and a BMW. Reports of money laundering, tax fraud, and other crimes circulated in the wake of Gines's defection. However, the Spanish authorities didn't launch a formal investigation. The new pope of the Palmarians would be the Swiss-born Marcus Joseph Odermatt, who took the name Peter III, coming to power one day after his predecessor's defection. As of early 2024, Odermatt continues to lead the cult. His sermons and decrees are boilerplate Palmarianism. The world is decadent and evil, the end is near, the only hope of salvation is in Palmar, and followers must continue to support the cause financially. While Odermatt lacks the supernatural visions and charisma of previous leaders, his papacy has featured some important developments. In 2018, the Palmarian Church went public with a website and social media presence on all the major platforms, attempting to spread their message and attract followers. Members may also use the internet with heavy censorship and monitoring. But the ghosts of Palmarians past would come to haunt the new pope. Around 6 p.m. on June 10, 2018, two thieves in ski masks climbed over the concrete walls of the Palmarian compound. They were armed with hammers, lockpicks, and a knife. Once inside, they stumbled upon a Palmarian bishop. One of the robbers hit the Palmarian with a hammer, and the other pulled the knife, and a fight ensued. Hearing the commotion, another bishop arrived and joined the brawl. One of the thieves was stabbed in the chest, before other Palmarians intervened and the police were called. The would-be burglars were none other than ex-Pope Ginés Hernandez and his wife, Nieves. Ginés spent 3 days in the hospital recovering from his knife wound, and both would be charged with armed robbery and assault. Spanish authorities would free Nieves, but Ginés would be jailed for 11 months until the legal process concluded. In May 2019, a civil court gave Ginés 6 years in prison, and Nieves 5, but neither would do the time. A settlement reduced their sentences to time served, and imposed a fine of 35,000 euros,
wow.
plus a restraining order and 5 years probation. Thus ended the drama of the ex-pope, for now. Religious scholar Magnus Lundberg estimates that there were anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 Palmarians in 2018, and that they have decreased since then. Hard and fast numbers are still unknown, but testimonies from former members agree that few are entering the Palmarian Church. Most Palmarians today are 3rd or 4th generation, and have only known life inside the cult. The group maintains an active online presence, and while they have declined significantly in the past 20 years, the Palmarian Church doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. To most who know about Palmar, it's a bizarre curiosity, a cross between the doomsday preaching of David Koresh and the decadence of the young pope. Kind of shady organization you'd find in a Dan Brown novel. To ex-members, it remains a dangerous cult that still holds family and friends captive. But to a handful of devoted followers, it is the Ark of Salvation at the end of the world, blessed by the Virgin Mary and led by the true Pope.
Yeah, this is truly one of the most bizarre... And the Palmarian Church has their own YouTube channel.
Se esperaba también totalmente inexplicable. Unos minutos antes habían estado de pie en la lluvia torrencial con la ropa totalmente empapada.
He's speaking in Spanish.
Yeah. They're basically like the North Korea of Christianity.
Yeah, they're the North Korea of Christianity.
The late 1960s, and Anna Aguilera reported seeing apparitions of Our Lady while they were picking flowers outside of their home. Joseph Odermatt, or Peter III, who succeeded Martinez as the Palmarian Pope and remains so up to this day. But it is Clemente Dominguez Gomez who had the most impact on shaping the Palmarian Catholic Church through infallible papal statements. We teach as infallible doctrine Mary's presence in the Eucharist. For she who is able by grace really and truly to suffer Christ's sacrosanct passion is able by grace to be present in the sacrosanct.
They're basically what Protestants accuse Catholics of. Which is insane.
That the most holy Virgin is co-priest of Christ, the eternal high priest. And that this real and true priesthood of Mary is inferior to the supreme priesthood of Jesus Christ, greatly superior to the ministerial priesthood, and immensely superior to the common priesthood of the faithful.
I just can't comprehend that, like, superior to this, superior to that, inferior. I'm trying to comprehend it, but I just really can't.
As well as proclaiming many other Marian dogmas. They also rewrote the Bible, correcting its, quote, errors. And by the way, that doesn't just mean errors that crept in through the centuries, but errors in the original writings as well. The following is taken directly from the Palmarian website, quote, "The Holy Palmarian Bible is the magnum opus of the two Palmarian Holy Councils, in the course of which the existence of falsifications in the sacred Bible texts became sadly more evident. For example, the Maccabees were atrociously falsified in their entirety and required a thorough labor of restoration. From the epistles of the apostles, almost all references to the sacraments, as also to the Most Holy Virgin Mary, had been eliminated and also required a work of restoration. And the book of the Apocalypse likewise needed considerable restoration to become what it is today, a stupendous guide, easy to read, for understanding the times in which we live and those to come up until the Last Judgment and beyond. Examples of adulterations owing to King Solomon. He invented episodes in which he presented his father David as a terrorist, cruel and deceitful during the years he was banished from King Saul's court. A notable falsification by King Solomon abolished it in favor of a new rite, the Palmarian rite, which he supposedly received from our Lord and Our Lady, even having been visited by Pope Pius V himself. This is ironic since the original apparition of Mary in Palmar was to tell us that the Tridentine Rite was the only correct form of Mass. Seen in Seville.
And like, I've seen the Mass and I've heard it's like only like 5 minutes. Like, I don't... I saw this from the same guy who made like an Arch Linux video. Traditional Catholic groups, and this isn't even from a Catholic, I don't believe it's from. But this guy also made a video about Arch, by the way. And he's like brought this up.
Peter III. The Palmarian Church believes that there were some visions in El Palmar de Troya in Spain, which included Christ telling them that the Pope would now reside in Spain rather than in Italy. This resulted in them building a huge cathedral in El Palmar de Troya, over where the apparitions supposedly occurred. They would also go on to modify the Mass. They actually have their own special Missal of Mass, where their Mass can be said in 20 minutes or less. It's like a shortened version of the Mass. They attribute this to a vision of Saint Pope Pius V, who created the Tridentine Missal and codified it. And he apparently told the Palmarian Pope that he was wrong to use the longer Missal and that they could start cutting some stuff from the Mass. The Palmarian Church has really an unknown number of priests, but it's generally accepted that they have around less than 100 priests and over 100 bishops. If you look at any of their videos, it's always a bunch of bishops coming in, like just an endless supply of bishops. They have 16 Mass centers spread across the world, with the most notable one being the one in El Palmar de Troya, the huge cathedral. And I don't know where their seminary is, but presumably they do have one in Marian Missal.
And then there's Pope Michael. And this one is kind of funny, actually. This one is kind of funny. That's where I'm going to end it.
Finally, we have independent Catholics. Now, some of them are conclavist.
Like, the dude just made himself Pope. And bro decided to make himself Pope. He's like, I'm in a conclave.
Which means they elect their own Pope. There's been a few of these in the history of the church, but the most notable one was Pope Michael. His name was David Bauden, and he was an SSPX seminarian who went on to leave the seminary and went to live in St. Mary's, Kansas, where a lot of SSPX priests and parishioners actually live. In 1990, Bauden decided that he wanted to see if he could become Pope, and he invited lots of sedevacantist bishops and priests to his house, kind of like a sad kid on their birthday party, literally.
Yeah, this is basically what happened. It was like, bro made himself Pope.
None of his friends showed up, and he held the election anyways with his parents and some relatives, and they elected him as Pope Michael. Pope Michael passed away in 2022, only to be succeeded by Pope Michael II, Rogelio Martinez, who was a Filipino...
It's Rogelio. It's Rogelio.
Sedevacantist, who used to be an independent Catholic priest.
I was like, what? This is actually kind of funny.
Yeah, look at the folks. She like, bruh.
He's like, he hosted it anyways, his election anyways. And that's like kind of the danger of SSPX in the sense, and like pretty much all the masses I've went to were Novus Ordo. My goodness. This is truly one of the most bizarre. Anyways, yeah, I covered this. It was crazy. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I am truly appalled that he decided to make himself Pope.
Dang.
He decided to make himself Pope. I'm not even kidding.
What?
Guys, I challenge. All right. But it's truly one of the most, and yes, I sometimes do like the Pope thing. It's actually just a gig of mine where I just say I'm the Pope. But honestly, that was like one of the most bizarre. No. You know what? I'm gonna keep this stream going. What do you guys want to do? Nothing, anything but Yandere ASMR. I'm on hiatus for that stuff. I'm on hiatus.
We're in April now, so it's a couple of weeks away. For days.
Easter is like not far from here. Oh my god. You tried to escape the basement, but it's your got the no.
That's one of those gorilla shit.
I'm on hiatus for that stuff.
Yeah, we're getting into the car.
A meeting with a wholesome succubus. I'm sorry, I don't get how a succubus is wholesome.
Well, succubuses are lewd.
My big siblings are very cool, but
Yes, indeed.
Oh, you agreed to know my point there?
I forgot to end the. Well, it's. Are you doing this? Are you capturing stuff?
No, I'm just recording something else for to make a GIF on Clip Champ.
Oh, okay. Peter the Third
online.
Actually, he's like, he hosted it anyways, his election anyways. All right. I'm gonna put palmarian.mp4 and then we'll set the quality down to medium, and GPU fans should be spinning, but I don't know really. It should take like 5 minutes. GPU fans aren't even spinning. I need to make a thumbnail for this. Hold on. Give me a second. Scene. On screen. I need Palmarian Pope. Why would they fake? Wait, hold on, guys. Look at this. That's freaking AI. Before it was cool. That is not real. The Pope did not actually do that.
Found himself on the wrong end of some.
That just sounds like some Peter the Third. That just sounds like some sort of fan fiction of the. Oh, here we go. Open image in YouTube. Okay, and F11, no, wrong window. F11, and all right, I'm gonna make the shocked face.
Okay, motherfucker.
Oh, there the GPU fans are spinning. They changed the graphics on everything. Okay, I created a thumbnail for that. The Palmarian Pope.
Hey, 42 gash in his side, and even scratches on his forehead from the crown of thorns. Perhaps, unsurprisingly, it was at this point the Catholic Church started to feel like things were getting a little out of hand. The Archbishop of Seville came out to formally denounce the visions of El Palmar de Troya, suggesting they were a form of collective hysteria and advising that they were not to be taken seriously. He even went as far as to forbid Roman Catholics from visiting the area and banning all acts of worship there. It's all fun and apparitions until people start bleeding to death. But the site continued to attract tens of thousands of pilgrims, both from Spain and far beyond in the years that followed, during which time Clemente successfully styled himself as the principal seer of visions there. In 1975, following instructions he claims to have received, in visions from both Jesus and Mary, who I'm assuming by now he was on first name terms with, Clemente Dominguez y Gomez.
Alright, I'm gonna end the stream here. This was truly bizarre. That